Climate change is one of the most pressing issues of our time, and it is a topic that affects every single person on the planet. In this podcast, we will explore the causes and consequences of climate change, as well as discuss the solutions that are currently being proposed to address this global issue. To begin, it is important to understand what climate change is and how it is caused. Climate change refers to a long-term shift in the Earth's weather patterns and temperatures, which can result in extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and changes to ecosystems. The primary cause of climate change is the increase of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which trap heat and cause the planet to warm up. The main greenhouse gases include carbon dioxide, CO2, methane, and nitrous oxide, which are released through human activities such as burning fossil fuels, deforestation, and agriculture. The consequences of climate change are far-reaching and varied. Rising temperatures can lead to more frequent and severe heat waves, droughts, and wildfires, while melting glaciers and ice sheets can cause sea levels to rise, leading to flooding and displacement of coastal communities. Climate change can also affect ecosystems and wildlife, with some species struggling to adapt to changing conditions and facing extinction. There are a number of solutions that are currently being proposed to address climate change. One of the most important is the transition to renewable energy sources such as wind and solar power, which can help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Additionally, efforts to reduce deforestation, promote sustainable agriculture, and improve energy efficiency in buildings and transportation can all help to mitigate the effects of climate change. However, there are also challenges to implementing these solutions. For example, there may be resistance from industries that rely on fossil fuels, and the transition to renewable energy sources can be expensive. There may also be political barriers to implementing policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, as some politicians may prioritize short-term economic growth over long-term environmental sustainability. In addition to exploring the causes and consequences of climate change, and the solutions that are currently being proposed, it is also important to consider how individuals can take action to address this global issue. Small changes in our daily habits, such as reducing energy consumption and eating a plant-based diet, can help to reduce our individual carbon footprints. However, it is also important to advocate for policy changes and support organizations and movements that are working to address climate change on a larger scale. In conclusion, climate change is a complex and pressing issue that affects every person on the planet. In this podcast, we have explored the causes and consequences of climate change, as well as the solutions that are currently being proposed to address this global issue. While there are challenges to implementing these solutions, it is important for individuals, governments, and industries to work together to take action on climate change and ensure a sustainable future for generations to come. To continue our exploration of climate change, let's dive deeper into some of the specific consequences and solutions. One of the most visible consequences of climate change is the increase in extreme weather events, such as hurricanes, heat waves, and wildfires. These events can have devastating impacts on communities, leading to loss of life, property damage, and economic disruption. In addition to being more frequent and severe, these events are also becoming harder to predict, which can make it difficult for communities to prepare and respond effectively. Another consequence of climate change is the impact on ecosystems and wildlife. As temperatures and weather patterns change, some species may be unable to adapt, leading to population decline or extinction. This can have cascading effects throughout ecosystems, affecting other species and even entire habitats. In addition, rising sea levels and ocean acidification can have significant impacts on marine ecosystems, affecting the health of coral reefs, fish populations, and other marine life. In response to these and other consequences of climate change, a variety of solutions are being proposed and implemented. One key solution is the transition to renewable energy sources, such as wind and solar power. This can help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, which are a major contributor to climate change. In addition, efforts to increase energy efficiency in buildings and transportation can also help to reduce emissions and mitigate the impacts of climate change. Another important solution is the conservation and restoration of ecosystems. Protecting and restoring forests, wetlands, and other habitats can help to mitigate the impacts of climate change by reducing carbon emissions and providing critical ecosystem services, such as water filtration and flood control. Additionally, efforts to reduce food waste and promote sustainable agriculture can help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote ecosystem health. Finally, it is important to note that addressing climate change requires collective action at all levels, from individuals and communities to governments and international organizations. While individual actions such as reducing energy consumption and eating a plant-based diet can make a difference, it is also important to advocate for policy changes and support organizations and movements that are working to address climate change on a larger scale. In conclusion, climate change is a complex and pressing issue that requires urgent action. By understanding the causes and consequences of climate change, and exploring the solutions that are being proposed, we can work together to create a more sustainable and resilient future for ourselves and future generations. To continue our exploration of climate change, let's take a closer look at some of the challenges and opportunities for addressing this complex issue. One of the biggest challenges in addressing climate change is the political and economic barriers to action. The fossil fuel industry, for example, has significant political influence and has historically opposed efforts to reduce emissions and transition to renewable energy sources. In addition, there can be significant economic costs associated with transitioning to a low-carbon economy, which can create resistance from businesses and governments. Another challenge is the need for global cooperation and coordination. Climate change is a global issue that requires action from all countries, but some countries may be more resistant to action than others. Additionally, there is a need for coordination in terms of setting targets and implementing policies, as well as financing and technology transfer to help developing countries transition to a low-carbon economy. Despite these challenges, there are also significant opportunities for addressing climate change. One of the biggest opportunities is the potential for job creation and economic growth in the transition to a low-carbon economy. Renewable energy, energy efficiency, and other climate solutions have the potential to create millions of jobs and stimulate economic growth, particularly in developing countries. Another opportunity is the potential for innovation and technological advancement. The transition to a low-carbon economy requires significant technological innovation, from advances in renewable energy to more efficient transportation and building systems. These innovations have the potential to not only reduce emissions, but also create new industries and economic opportunities. Finally, addressing climate change also presents an opportunity to address other social and environmental challenges, such as poverty, inequality, and air pollution. Many climate solutions, such as increasing access to clean energy and promoting sustainable agriculture, can also help to address these broader challenges and create a more sustainable and equitable future for all. In conclusion, addressing climate change is a complex and multifaceted challenge that requires action on many fronts. While there are significant challenges to overcome, there are also significant opportunities for creating a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future. By working together, we can create a world that is both resilient to the impacts of climate change and powered by clean, renewable energy. Climate change is one of the most pressing issues facing our world today, and it is up to all of us to take action to address this complex and challenging problem. While there are significant challenges to overcome, including political and economic barriers to action and the need for global cooperation and coordination, there are also significant opportunities for job creation, economic growth, and technological innovation in the transition to a low-carbon economy. By taking action to reduce emissions, transition to renewable energy sources, and promote sustainable practices, we can not only mitigate the impacts of climate change but also create a more sustainable and equitable future for all. This requires action from individuals, businesses, governments, and organizations at all levels, and it is up to each and every one of us to do our part. As we move forward, it is important to remember that addressing climate change is not just about reducing emissions, but also about creating a more just and equitable society that values the well-being of all people and the health of our planet. By working together, we can create a brighter future for ourselves and for generations to come. Thank you for listening.